When we encounter someone who appears to have few close friendships or seems to navigate life with a notably small social circle, our minds often jump to conclusions. We might assume they are antisocial, difficult to get along with, or somehow deficient in social skills. However, the reality behind a sparse friendship network is far more nuanced and reveals something profound about human nature itself, that the absence of numerous friendships doesn't indicate a character flaw, but rather points to someone who is very particular, very selective, or very focused on different aspects of life. The modern world has created an interesting paradox around friendship. We live in an era of unprecedented connectivity, where social media platforms encourage us to accumulate hundreds or even thousands of friends and connections. Yet simultaneously, studies consistently show that people report feeling lonelier than ever before. This contradiction forces us to examine what friendship truly means and whether the quantity of social connections actually correlates with their quality or with personal fulfillment. Consider the person who maintains only 2 or 3 close friendships while others around them seem to effortlessly juggle dozens of social relationships. Society often views this individual through a lens of concern or pity, assuming something must be wrong. But what if we reframed this observation entirely? What if having fewer friends actually indicates that someone is very intentional about how they invest their emotional energy? Friendship, at its core, requires significant emotional investment. Meaningful relationships demand time, attention, empathy, and consistent effort to maintain. When someone chooses to cultivate only a handful of deep connections rather than spreading themselves thin across numerous superficial acquaintanceships, they are making a deliberate choice about how to allocate one of their most precious resources: their authentic self. The person with few friends might be someone who is very aware of their own capacity for genuine connection. They understand that real friendship cannot be manufactured or maintained through occasional social media interactions or surface-level conversations. Instead, they recognize that true friendship requires presence, vulnerability, and mutual investment. Rather than diluting their social energy across a wide network, they concentrate it into relationships that offer profound meaning and reciprocal growth. This selective approach to friendship often characterizes individuals who are very introspective by nature. They may spend considerable time in self-reflection, pursuing personal interests, or engaging in solitary activities that bring them fulfillment. These people often have rich inner lives and may find that they need significant alone time to process their thoughts and recharge their emotional batteries. For such individuals, maintaining numerous social connections might actually feel draining rather than energizing. The introvert who appears to have few friends is not necessarily lonely or socially inadequate. Instead, they may be someone who is very sensitive to social stimulation and who processes relationships more deeply than their extroverted counterparts. Where an extrovert might feel energized by attending a party with 30 acquaintances, an introvert might find greater satisfaction in having a lengthy, meaningful conversation with one close friend. Neither approach is superior, they simply represent different ways of engaging with the social world. Sometimes a lack of visible friendships indicates that someone is very much in a period of transition or personal growth. Life changes such as moving to a new city, changing careers, going through a divorce, or experiencing the loss of a loved one can temporarily disrupt social networks. During these times, a person might appear to have fewer friends not because they are antisocial, but because they are very focused on rebuilding their life or processing significant changes. These transitional periods often require individuals to prioritize differently than they might during more stable times. Someone who is very committed to personal growth might temporarily step back from social obligations to focus on therapy, education, or developing new skills. This doesn't indicate a character deficiency, but rather demonstrates someone who is very aware of their current needs and willing to make difficult choices to honor them. The assumption that friendlessness indicates social incompetence also fails to account for individuals who are very successful in other types of relationships. Some people pour their social energy into family relationships, romantic partnerships, or professional mentorships rather than peer friendships. A person who appears to lack friends might actually be someone who is very devoted to being an exceptional parent, a caring adult child to aging parents, or a supportive spouse. Their social calendar might be filled with family obligations that leave little time for cultivating additional friendships. Furthermore, some individuals are very career-focused or passion-driven in ways that naturally limit their social availability. The artist who spends every evening in their studio, the entrepreneur working 18-hour days to build their business, or the researcher immersed in groundbreaking work might have few traditional friendships not because they are antisocial, but because they are very committed to pursuing their calling. These individuals often find deep satisfaction in their work and may view their professional relationships as fulfilling many of the same needs that others meet through personal friendships. Cultural and generational factors also play a significant role in how friendship manifests in different people's lives. Someone who grew up in a culture that emphasizes family bonds over peer relationships might be very content with a social circle that primarily consists of relatives. Similarly, older adults who have lost friends to illness, death, or geographic relocation might appear to have few friends not because they are antisocial, but because they are very focused on managing their condition. This withdrawal is often a protective mechanism rather than a reflection of their social abilities or desires. Many people with mental health conditions are very social and charismatic when they are feeling well, but may isolate themselves during difficult periods. The stigma surrounding mental health often prevents people from understanding that social withdrawal can be a symptom rather than a personality trait. Someone who appears friendless during a depressive episode might actually be someone who is very popular and socially successful under normal circumstances. Judging their social worth based on a snapshot during a challenging time fails to recognize the complexity of human experience. Geographic factors also significantly impact friendship formation and maintenance. Someone living in a rural area, a military family that moves frequently, or an individual in a specialized profession that requires frequent relocation might appear to have few local friends simply because of circumstances beyond their control. These individuals might be very socially skilled and deeply value friendship, but find themselves repeatedly starting over in new environments where building deep connections takes time. The quality versus quantity debate becomes particularly relevant when examining friendship patterns. Research consistently shows that most people can only maintain a limited number of truly close relationships due to cognitive and emotional constraints. The famous Dunbar's number suggests that humans can maintain stable relationships with only about 150 people, with much smaller numbers for truly intimate friendships. Someone who appears to have few friends might actually be operating closer to these natural human limits for meaningful connection. Consider also that some people are very strategic about their social lives in ways that might not be immediately apparent. They might maintain different types of relationships for different purposes: work colleagues for professional networking, neighbors for practical support, family members for emotional connection, and perhaps only one or two individuals they consider true friends. This compartmentalization doesn't indicate social dysfunction, but rather demonstrates someone who is very thoughtful about the various roles that different people play in their life. The pace of modern life has also changed how friendships develop and are maintained. Previous generations might have formed lifelong friendships through shared experiences like neighborhood play, military service, or long-term employment with the same company. Today's more mobile and rapidly changing society makes such organic, circumstance-based friendships less common. Someone who appears to have few friends might actually be very socially capable but struggling to adapt their friendship formation strategies to contemporary circumstances. Age-related changes in social needs and capabilities also affect friendship patterns. Young adults often have numerous friendships because they are in environments like college or early career positions that naturally facilitate social connection. As people age, their friendship needs often become more specific and refined. An older person with few visible friendships might be someone who is very content with the relationships they have and no longer feels the need to actively pursue new social connections. The assumption that few friendships indicate personal deficiency also overlooks individuals who are very self-sufficient and independent. Some people derive their primary sense of fulfillment from personal achievements, creative pursuits, or individual exploration rather than from social connection. This doesn't make them less valuable or less emotionally healthy than more socially oriented individuals. It simply means they are very aware of what brings them satisfaction and have organized their lives accordingly. Personality differences play a crucial role in friendship formation and maintenance. Someone who is very direct in communication might struggle to form friendships in environments that value indirect communication styles. Similarly, someone who is very intellectually focused might find it challenging to connect with people who prefer more emotionally driven or activity-based relationships. These differences don't indicate social incompetence, but rather highlight the importance of finding compatible social partners. The timing of life events also affects friendship patterns in ways that might not be immediately obvious. Someone who married young and started a family early might have missed the typical friendship-forming period of their 20s. Someone who pursued extensive education or specialized training might have delayed social development in favor of academic or professional goals. Someone who experienced early trauma or loss might have very different approaches to trust and connection that affect their friendship patterns throughout life. Economic factors can also influence friendship formation and maintenance. Socializing often requires disposable income for activities like dining out, attending events, or traveling together. Someone with limited financial resources might appear to have fewer friends not because they are antisocial, but because they cannot afford to participate in the social activities that facilitate friendship in their community. This highlights how socioeconomic status can impact social connection in ways that are often overlooked when making judgments about people's social lives. From an evolutionary perspective, the tendency to form smaller, more selective social groups might actually indicate that someone is very attuned to ancient survival strategies that served our species well for millennia. Throughout most of human history, people lived in small, tightly knit communities where trust and reciprocity were essential for survival. The ability to form deep, loyal bonds with a select few individuals was often more valuable than maintaining superficial connections with many. Someone who gravitates toward fewer, deeper friendships might be expressing an evolutionary wisdom that recognizes the profound importance of truly reliable relationships. Neuroscience research has revealed fascinating insights about how different brains process social information. Some individuals have neural patterns that make them very sensitive to social overstimulation, while others thrive on constant social input. Those who appear to have fewer friends might actually have brains that are very finely tuned to process social information deeply rather than broadly. Their neural architecture might be optimized for forming intense, meaningful connections rather than managing large social networks. This neurological variation doesn't represent a deficit, but rather demonstrates the beautiful diversity of human social cognition. The philosophical tradition has long recognized the value of solitude and selective social engagement. Many of history's greatest thinkers, from Thoreau to Nietzsche, have written extensively about the importance of spending time alone and choosing relationships carefully. Someone who appears to have few friends might be very connected to this philosophical understanding that solitude can be profoundly enriching and that not all social interaction adds value to one's life. They might be practicing what ancient wisdom traditions have long taught about the importance of discernment in human relationships. Creative individuals often exhibit patterns of selective social engagement that can be misunderstood by those who don't share their artistic temperament. The writer who spends months in solitude crafting a novel, the painter who works alone in their studio for hours each day, or the musician who dedicates most of their social energy to collaboration with a few fellow artists might appear antisocial to casual observers. However, these individuals are often very socially engaged within their creative communities and may find that their artistic work provides a form of connection with humanity that is more profound than traditional friendship. The spiritual and contemplative traditions offer another lens through which to understand selective social engagement. Many mystical traditions emphasize the importance of inner development and often require periods of withdrawal from ordinary social activities. Someone who appears to have few friends might be very committed to a spiritual path that emphasizes meditation, prayer, or other contemplative practices. Their reduced social activity might reflect a deep commitment to inner growth rather than an inability to form connections with others. Educational and intellectual pursuits can also create patterns that might be misinterpreted as antisocial behavior. The graduate student immersed in dissertation research, the lifelong learner constantly taking courses and pursuing new knowledge, or the autodidact spending every free moment reading and studying might appear to have few traditional friendships. However, these individuals are often very socially connected through their professional relationships and may find that their work provides such meaningful human connection that they require less traditional social interaction in their personal lives. The impact of chronic illness or disability on friendship patterns is another factor that is often overlooked when making judgments about people's social lives. Someone managing a chronic condition might have very limited energy for maintaining numerous friendships, but this doesn't indicate a lack of social skills or desire for connection. Instead, it might demonstrate someone who is very realistic about their limitations and very careful about how they spend their precious energy. These individuals often develop incredibly deep relationships with the few people who understand and accommodate their health challenges. Historical trauma, whether personal or generational, can also significantly impact how people approach friendship. Someone from a family background marked by persecution, displacement, or betrayal might be very cautious about forming new relationships. This wariness doesn't indicate antisocial tendencies, but rather demonstrates someone who is very aware of the potential risks involved in trusting others. Such individuals often form extraordinarily loyal friendships once trust is established, but they may be very selective about who earns that trust. The rise of remote work and digital nomadism has created new categories of people whose friendship patterns might be misunderstood. Someone who works entirely online and travels frequently might appear to lack local friendships, but they might actually be very connected to a global community of like-minded individuals. Their friendships might exist primarily in digital spaces or might be distributed across multiple geographic locations. These new forms of social connection challenge traditional notions of what friendship looks like and how it should be maintained. Environmental factors also play a role in shaping friendship patterns. Someone living in an area with extreme weather conditions, limited transportation options, or safety concerns might have fewer opportunities for casual social interaction. Their apparent lack of friends might reflect practical constraints rather than personal choices or social inadequacies. Similarly, someone living in a culturally homogeneous area might struggle to find others who share their values, interests, or background, leading to a smaller social circle despite their openness to friendship. The impact of major life transitions extends beyond the obvious examples of moving or changing jobs. Someone going through a significant identity shift, such as coming out as LGBTQ+, experiencing a religious conversion, or undergoing a major philosophical awakening, might find that their existing friendships no longer fit their evolving sense of self. During these periods, they might appear to have fewer friends, not because they are becoming antisocial, but because they are very committed to living authentically and are willing to endure temporary social isolation while they find their new community. Intergenerational differences in communication styles and social expectations can also create misunderstandings about friendship patterns. Someone from an older generation might maintain friendships primarily through phone calls, letters, or occasional in-person visits, while younger observers might not recognize these as real friendships because they don't see them reflected in social media or frequent social activities. Similarly, someone from a younger generation might maintain friendships primarily through gaming, messaging apps, or other digital platforms that older observers might not recognize as legitimate social connection. The role of pets and animal companions in meeting social needs is another factor that is often underestimated. Someone who appears to have few human friendships might actually be very socially fulfilled through their relationships with animals. Pet owners often develop profound emotional bonds with their animals and may participate in pet-related communities that provide meaningful social connection. The person walking their dog in the park might appear solitary to casual observers, but they might actually be very connected to a community of fellow dog owners who gather regularly. Seasonal and cyclical patterns also affect friendship visibility in ways that might not be immediately apparent. Someone who is very socially active during certain times of the year but withdrawn during others might be responding to seasonal depression, agricultural cycles, academic calendars, or other temporal factors. Judging their social competence based on observation during their withdrawn periods would miss the full picture of their social capabilities and preferences. The concept of emotional labor provides another lens through which to understand selective social engagement. Some individuals are very aware of the emotional demands that different relationships place on them and are careful about managing their emotional resources. They might appear to have fewer friends because they are very conscious of the need to maintain balance between giving and receiving in their relationships. Rather than indicating selfishness or antisocial tendencies, this selectivity might demonstrate emotional wisdom and self-awareness. Professional networking and social media have created new forms of pseudo-friendship that can complicate assessments of people's real social connections. Someone might appear to have numerous friends based on their online presence or professional contacts, but these relationships might lack the depth and reciprocity that characterize true friendship. Conversely, someone who avoids these platforms or keeps a low professional profile might appear to have fewer connections while actually maintaining deeper, more authentic relationships. The impact of sociodynamic mobility on friendship patterns is another factor that deserves consideration. Someone who has experienced significant upward or downward economic mobility might find that their previous friendships no longer fit their current circumstances. This transition period might leave them appearing to have fewer friends while they navigate the complex process of finding new social connections that match their current life situation. Cultural variations in friendship definitions and expectations create additional complexity when assessing people's social lives. In some cultures, friendship is primarily understood through family-like loyalty and obligation, while in others it might be more casual and activity-based. Someone from a culture that emphasizes deep, lifelong friendships might appear to have fewer friends when measured against standards that value broader but less intense social networks. The role of work-life balance preferences also influences friendship patterns. Someone who is very committed to maintaining clear boundaries between their professional and personal lives might appear to have fewer friends because they don't socialize with colleagues or participate in work-related social activities. This choice doesn't indicate antisocial tendencies, but rather demonstrates someone who is very intentional about how they structure their life and relationships. Religious and spiritual communities provide another context for understanding friendship patterns. Someone who is very active in their faith community might have most of their social connections centered around religious activities and relationships. To observers outside this community, they might appear to have few secular friendships, but within their religious context, they might be very socially connected and supported. The impact of perfectionism and high personal standards on friendship formation is another consideration. Someone who has very high expectations for themselves and others might struggle to form casual friendships, but might excel at developing deep, meaningful relationships with people who share their values and standards. Their apparent selectivity in friendship might reflect very thoughtful criteria rather than antisocial tendencies. Language barriers and cultural adaptation challenges can also affect friendship patterns, particularly for immigrants or people living in multicultural environments. Someone who is very socially skilled in their native language and culture might appear to have fewer friends while they adapt to new social norms and develop fluency in a new language. This temporary reduction in social connections reflects the challenges of cultural transition rather than inherent social inadequacy. The conclusion we might draw is that a lack of friends indicates that a person is very human. They are navigating the complex realities of modern life with its unique challenges, opportunities, and constraints. They might be very focused on other priorities, very selective about their social investments, very much in transition, very introspective, very devoted to family, very career-driven, very independent, very much dealing with circumstances that make friendship formation challenging, very attuned to their own needs and limitations, very committed to authenticity, very aware of their emotional resources, or very much in the process of creating the life that truly serves them. Rather than viewing few friendships as a deficit, we might instead recognize it as evidence of someone who is very intentional about how they live their life. In a world that often pushes us towards superficial connections and constant social stimulation, choosing depth over breadth, quality over quantity, or solitude over social obligation might actually indicate wisdom rather than dysfunction. The person with few visible friendships might be teaching us something valuable about the courage required to live authentically, the wisdom needed to honor our own needs, and the strength required to resist social pressures that don't align with our deepest values. The next time you encounter someone who appears to have few friends, consider that you might be meeting someone who is very thoughtful about their relationships, very aware of their own needs and limitations, very focused on other important aspects of life, very much in the process of creating the life that truly serves them, very committed to depth and authenticity in their connections, very conscious of their emotional and social resources, or very much engaged in forms of connection and contribution that might not be immediately visible to casual observers. Their approach to friendship might offer valuable insights into alternative ways of finding fulfillment and meaning in our increasingly complex social world, and their choices might reflect a deep wisdom about what it means to live a truly connected and purposeful life.